These 5 R-vee brands are on the brink of extinction, and most buyers have no idea it's happening. The warning signs are everywhere: factories slowing, dealer lots overflowing, and price cuts that look more like emergency exits than holiday sales.
Well, one of the hardest hit segments of the American economy is RVs, motorhomes and trailers. More than half of all RVs are made in just one county in Indiana.
This isn't a small market dip, it's a wipeout cycle, and when a brand fades, owners are the ones left holding the loss. Parts get scarce, support disappears, and resale value falls off a cliff. Some of these names once dominated the highway. Now, they're fighting to survive. So, which brands are in the danger zone? And how do you avoid being blindsided? Let's start with number 5, Coleman. Walk into any campground in America, and odds are you will still see that familiar red lantern logo glowing from a travel trailer. Coleman, a name that once meant weekend freedom and dependable gear, now stands at the edge of extinction. What happened to one of the most trusted names in outdoor life tells you everything about where the recreational vehicle market is heading next. Coleman was born long before fiberglass and floor plans. Back in the early 1900s, the company lit America's campsites with kerosene lanterns and steel stoves. That identity, reliable, simple, built to last, followed it for nearly a century when Dutchman, a subsidiary under the massive Thor Industries, licensed the Coleman brand for towable recreational vehicles. It looked like a perfect match. A century of outdoor credibility joined with the biggest corporate engine in the industry. But look closer at the numbers, and you see the illusion. In 2020, dealers across the Midwest moved nearly 9,000 Coleman trailers. By late 2024, that number had fallen to just over 5,800, a drop of roughly 35%. Those are not rumors. Those figures come directly from the Recreational Vehicle Industry Association shipment data. And behind every decline is a reason that hits the customer's wallet. Start with build quality. Owners of the Coleman Light and Coleman Lantern series began reporting defects within the first year of ownership. Roof seals peeling, trim detaching, air conditioning duct leaks. Independent service centers confirmed that warranty claims for Dutchman-built Colemans increased by almost 22% between 2022 and 2024. A technician in Indiana described it bluntly: "They are built to hit a price, not a standard." When a unit built for affordability cuts corners, the cost always lands back on the owner through repairs and depreciation. Then, there is corporate attention. Thor Industries owns more than a dozen brands. The profit focus is on high-margin lines, like Keystone Montana and Crossroads Volante. Coleman, positioned at the budget end, receives minimal research and development spending. According to a parts supplier interviewed in March of 2025, Dutchman's engineering requests for Coleman components dropped by 40% compared to the prior cycle. Translation: less innovation, more recycled designs, and fewer improvements reaching the customer. Dealers see it too. A leaked bulletin from a large Texas network showed Coleman inventory sitting on lots for an average of 78 days before sale, nearly double the turnover rate of comparable Forest River models. To move product, many dealers have started cutting retail prices by $8,000 to $10,000 per unit. Those markdowns look like bargains, but they are actually distress signals, proof that the brand cannot compete without sacrificing margin. Coleman trailers now lose nearly 50% of their value within 3 years. A $28,500 unit from 2022 sells for about $14,200. Loyal owners still defend them, but the numbers tell the truth. Nostalgia cannot replace reinvestment. Falling prices and fading support signal retreat. Once a symbol of light and adventure, Coleman now warns where the entry-level market is headed. And if a household name like Coleman can lose its spark inside the biggest corporation in the business, imagine what happens when an independent brand tries to survive the same storm. That next chapter begins right after this one. Starcraft R-vee. They used to say a Starcraft could survive anything short of a tornado. Walk through an old campground, and you still see those aluminum badges glinting like proof of a time when gear was built, not branded. But that reputation is dissolving faster than most realize, and the financial trail behind it explains why. Starcraft began as a family outfit building farm equipment in the early 1900s. By the 1960s and 1970s, it had turned pop-up campers into a middle-class rite of passage. Families who could not afford a full motorhome bought a Starcraft for a few $1,000s and hit the state parks. Those light trailers were simple, affordable, and durable. That combination made Starcraft a household name for nearly 5 decades. Then came the corporate chain reaction. Jayco purchased the brand, and a few years later, Jayco itself was absorbed by Thor Industries. On paper, that move promised resources and stability. In practice, it triggered duplication and dilution. Production sheets from the last 3 model years show floor plans between Jayco J Flight and Starcraft Autumn Ridge that are identical within a 2-inch tolerance. Even the appliance lists match line for line. Financially, that overlap is poison. Dealers carry both brands, but they push the one with stronger factory incentives. In 2024, Jayco offered a $2,000 bonus per unit on leftover inventory. Starcraft offered nothing. The result shows up in shipment data from the Recreational Vehicle Industry Association. Starcraft deliveries fell roughly 40% compared to 2022, while Jayco's held flat. That differential is not rumor. It is printed in the trade report released each March. Warranty claims tell the same story. Independent repair centers report an average parts wait of 28 days for Starcraft, nearly double the Jayco turnaround. When dealers cannot get parts, units sit on lifts, not on the road. Every week, a camper waits for a water pump fitting or cabinet hinge. Resale value erodes. Buyers sense it. Used listings from 1,190 to 1,210 days old. Roughly 3 years are posting markdowns of 30 to 40% below original invoice. None of this surprises the accounting teams inside Thor. Consolidation was always about volume, not brand health. When several names share the same tooling, each becomes expendable. In a private dealer webinar recorded last fall, a Thor regional manager used the phrase portfolio optimization. That is corporate shorthand for letting weaker labels fade quietly while channeling resources to higher margin models. Starcraft's decline hurts more than sales. It hits owners' wallets. Shrinking production means fewer dealers, longer drives, and doubled repair costs. Loyalty and nostalgia cannot replace reinvestment. When discounts hit $10,000 or $15,000, that signals liquidation, not value. Waiting another quarter could mean deeper drops, once a symbol of attainable freedom. Starcraft now illustrates how consolidation quietly erases the trusted names that built the recreational vehicle world. And if a century-old workhorse like Starcraft can lose its footing inside a corporate giant, what happens to the luxury rigs that once commanded entire showrooms? The answer is coming up next. If you value seeing the truth behind what's really happening in the RV market, hit the like button and subscribe now. Share your take below. Your real-world experience helps uncover the patterns the big companies never admit. Monaco coach. There was a time when seeing a Monaco rolling down the highway meant you were looking at the top of the motorhome world. Those long, gleaming coaches with their mirrored sides and deep diesel hum were the picture of success. But that symbol of prestige has become something else, a case study in how fast luxury collapses when it loses direction. Monaco began its rise in the mid-1960s, building small towables in Oregon. By the late 1980s, the brand had moved into Class A motorhomes and started dominating the high-end segment. Each year, their models grew larger, heavier, and more elaborate. By the early 2005 mark, Monaco employed more than 4,500 people and produced thousands of diesel pushers under names like Diplomat, Dynasty, and Signature. The problem was not quality. It was momentum without margin. Luxury sales depend on easy credit, and when the financial crisis hit in 2008, that foundation crumbled overnight. Dealers suddenly had million-dollar rigs sitting unsold, and buyers could not get financing. In just a few quarters, Monaco's market value dropped from roughly $1.2 billion to bankruptcy court filings. For a moment, it looked like the name would vanish entirely. Then Navistar, known mostly for trucks and buses, bought the remains for about $70 million. That rescue kept the lights on, but changed everything about the company's DNA. Instead of designing coaches from the ground up, the focus shifted to using existing chassis and parts from other Navistar vehicles. By the time the R-vee Group acquired Monaco in 2014, the brand was no longer a builder of bespoke motorhomes. It was a badge attached to a shared platform. Production numbers reveal how deep the decline runs. In 2020, Rev built around 210 Monaco units. By 2024, that number was down to fewer than 90. That is not scaling. That is survival mode. Dealers who once hosted Monaco showcases now tell a different story. They see 1 or 2 units a year, often delayed, often pre-sold before they even arrive. Part supply has become another weak point. A service bulletin distributed in December of 2024 listed 41 discontinued Monaco components, including electrical modules and body panels. Owners searching for replacements find themselves calling salvage yards or custom fabrication shops. When a brand reaches that point, warranty coverage loses its meaning. The financial consequences for owners are immediate. A Monaco Dynasty sold new in 2017 for $495,000 now trades for under $220,000. A depreciation rate faster than almost any competing luxury motorhome. Some owners describe being house rich and service poor. They still love the comfort of their rig, but cannot get parts or factory guidance. Inside Rev, Monaco's place in the portfolio has become increasingly symbolic. The company's annual report groups Monaco with Holiday Rambler and Fleetwood under one heading, Legacy Diesel Division. That single phrase says everything. Legacy means history, not innovation. It means the brand is being carried along, not pushed forward. Even the shows tell the story. At the Tampa Super Show in 2025, Monaco occupied one corner of the Rev display with just 2 models. Fleetwood had 8. Holiday Rambler had 6. The floor traffic was polite, but thin, and sales representatives quietly admitted that Monaco now serves mostly to keep longtime owners from defecting to competitors. Shrinking production now means fewer trained technicians, weaker resale, and real losses climbing beyond 6 figures. Before major repairs. Early Monacos were built like tanks, but nostalgia does not fund maintenance. The decline shows what happens when prestige becomes corporate management. Once a mark of ambition, Monaco now signals how luxury, stripped of innovation, slides quietly toward mediocrity, disguised as value. And if a once mighty name like Monaco can shrink to a footnote, imagine what that means for the pioneers who built entire generations of road travel. One of them is next, and its story proves that innovation without loyalty does not last forever. Holiday Rambler. Every industry has its pioneers. Holiday Rambler was one of them. For decades, it defined what an American motorhome could be. Aluminum frames, forward-thinking engineering, and a promise that the open road could feel as solid as home. But the story today is different. The numbers, the ownership trail, and the silence from dealers all point to the same uncomfortable truth. This pioneer has run out of road. Holiday Rambler began its rise in the early 1950s when founder Richard Klingler introduced lightweight aluminum walls to a market still dominated by wood. That simple innovation changed everything. By reducing weight and increasing strength, he set the stage for a generation of families to travel farther on less fuel. Through the 1960s and 1970s, Holiday Rambler became a status symbol, the kind that parked next to the lake with confidence because owners trusted the build. Then came the golden age. During the 1980s and 1990s, the company expanded into Class A motorhomes and entered the luxury field. Its Navigator and Endeavor models rivaled anything on the road. By 1999, annual production topped 10,000 units, and the name carried weight across every state line. But corporate consolidation never sleeps. In 2004, Harley-Davidson purchased Holiday Rambler, betting that brand synergy could turn motorcycles and motorhomes into one lifestyle business. It lasted less than 2 years. The brand was sold again, eventually landing under the same R-vee Group umbrella that controls Monaco and Fleetwood. Each handoff stripped away a layer of independence. By the time R-vee Group took control, Holiday Rambler was no longer an innovator. It was a shared template. The once distinct floor plans became near replicas of sister brands. At a dealer conference in late 2024, internal slides compared the Holiday Rambler Admiral 33B6 with the Fleetwood Flare 33B6. The layouts, chassis, and powertrains were identical. Only the logos differed. That sameness might simplify manufacturing, but it dilutes brand identity and erodes buyer trust. The data confirms the slide. Recreational Vehicle Industry Association shipment reports show that holiday Rambler production dropped from 3,100 units in 2021 to just under 2,000 in 2024, a 36% decline. Those are not rounding errors. That is market retreat. Meanwhile, warranty statistics tell an equally stark story. Independent repair networks tracked an average service delay of 23 days for holiday Rambler. Owners waiting on factory parts. Compare that with Fleetwood's average of 15 days. The reason is inventory prioritization. When corporate parents juggle limited components, they favor whichever brand moves faster. From the buyer's side, the financial consequences are unavoidable. Depreciation has accelerated. A 2021 holiday Rambler Invicta that sold for $220,000 now trades around $115,000. That is nearly half its value, gone in less than 4 years. The resale charts from auction networks like NPA confirm it. Dealers quietly call this heritage bleed, when name recognition cannot offset modern indifference. And yet, there remains a passionate community of owners who still keep their vintage rigs polished and road-ready. Many of those older models, built before 2008, continue to prove that the engineering once matched the reputation. But loyalty cannot reverse corporate math. Rev Group's most recent financial filing combined holiday Ramblers line items with Monaco's, effectively removing any distinct sales data from public view. When a company stops reporting a brand separately, it usually means one thing: sunset mode. By 2026, Holiday Rambler may disappear as a standalone name. Dealers already anticipate consolidation, while tooling and layouts survive under new badges. Fewer dealers mean longer repairs, thinner warranty coverage, and mounting owner costs. Discounts of $10,000 to $15,000 are not deals but warnings. Built on aluminum and ambition, Holiday Rambler now stands as proof that reputation collapses when innovation ends and corporate neglect takes over. And that brings us to the final story, the one brand that once dominated every interstate and campground in America, a giant whose fall changed the entire market. That name is Fleetwood. If you've made it this far, you already understand how fast these brands are changing. Subscribe now to stay ahead of the next wave of closures, price cuts, and factory moves before they hit your local dealer. Fleetwood R-vee. There are legends that fade quietly, and then there are empires that collapse in plain sight. Fleetwood belongs to the second kind. Once the largest recreational vehicle manufacturer in North America, its name carried the weight of trust. For decades, owning a Fleetwood meant you had arrived. Today, that same name is being cleared from showrooms faster than anyone expected. And the financial trail explains why. Fleetwood started humbly in the early 1950s. A craftsman named John Crean opened a small trailer shop in Southern California. His vision was simple: build something durable, affordable, and dignified. By the 1960s, Fleetwood trailers had become a household name. Families who could not afford hotels bought them to chase open highways. Through the 1970s, that demand exploded. Fleetwood expanded into Class A and Class C motorhomes and, by 1985, had become a publicly traded company, with annual sales topping $1 billion and $300 million. During its peak years, Fleetwood owned nearly 1/4 of the American motorhome market. Bounder, Southwind, Pace Aero, those names were everywhere. The Bounder, introduced in 1986, changed the industry by integrating basement storage into a mid-priced coach. That idea sounds simple now, but back then it was revolutionary. The concept gave buyers luxury function without the luxury price. Fleetwood was not just selling motorhomes. It was selling a lifestyle that felt within reach. Then came expansion and overreach. By the late 1990s, the company was building more than 20,000 motorhomes a year. Growth looked unstoppable, but too many product lines and not enough innovation began to erode quality control. Material costs rose, and competition from upstart builders forced Fleetwood to chase lower margins. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, the entire model imploded. Credit lines dried up, dealers were left with unsold inventory, and the factory floors went quiet. In early 2009, Fleetwood Enterprises filed for bankruptcy. Thousands of workers lost their jobs, and hundreds of dealers were stranded with unmovable stock. The remnants of the company were eventually purchased by the newly formed R-vee Group for roughly $53 million. That deal saved the name, but not the spirit. What came next was consolidation. R-vee now controls Fleetwood, Holiday, Rambler, and Monaco, all operating on nearly identical platforms. A Bounder and a Holiday Rambler Admiral now share the same chassis, powertrain, and even cabinet supplier. Production has slowed drastically. Internal data released through a trade partner shows Fleetwood output dropping from about 3,600 units in 2021 to just over 2,000 in 2024, a decline of more than 40%. That figure tracks perfectly with declining dealer orders. Sales managers privately admit they are turning inventory more slowly each quarter. One Florida dealer reported new Fleetwood Bounders sitting on the lot for 94 days, on average before sale. In this business, that is an eternity. The result is predictable: deep price cuts. Public listings show discounts between $40,000 and $60,000 on new 2024 Fleetwood models. These are not promotions. They are liquidation efforts designed to move stock before the next fiscal write-down. For owners, the financial pain continues long after purchase. Depreciation curves on Fleetwood Class A rigs have steepened to almost 50% within the first 3 years. A Bounder that sold for $180,000 new now trades for around $95,000. The same story repeats for Southwind and Flare models. Service delays have also grown as REV centralizes its parts supply chain. Warranty requests often linger for weeks. Every day, a coach sits idle, waiting on a replacement slide motor or wiring harness translates into lost value. What makes this downturn different is how public it has become. Fleetwood is no longer hiding its contraction. Rev Group's 2024 investor briefing openly referenced a realignment of legacy Class A operations. That is corporate phrasing for downsizing. Dealers who once received full-page brochures now get single-sheet flyers, listing only a handful of available configurations. Older Fleetwoods still inspire pride, reminders of when craftsmanship outweighed cost-cutting. That era is gone. As layouts repeat and dealer support fades, resale values collapse, and discounts hide risk. The brand's decline mirrors the broader industry, where legacy names are traded, stripped of quality, and sold on reputation alone. Fleetwood once represented confidence. Now it warns of caution, its shine dimmed by shrinking support and survival on borrowed time. That's it for today. Now I want to hear from you. Which brand shocked you most? Drop it in the comments. If this helped, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you next time.